it has only been more recently that I recognise that one of the greatest things a father can give to their daughter is the message that your body is sacrosanct and you don't have to give it to anybody.
Yeah.
Like, you can say no at any point.
Yeah.
And you're, and you have that value. And it's having that. If you have that from your father, then you know that you're invoking that from someone, a big, strong man.
Yeah.
If it's just a message that's come through from other women, yes, that's good.
Yeah.
But it's not quite the same as having a male figure there telling you your body is of huge value and it's precious. And
I hope there's a lot of fathers listening to this. And as you say that, I'm thinking, oh God, if my mother would have firmly said to me, Craig, a woman's body is sacred. On the flip of that, I think that's on. Before we get into the podcast, I'd like to say a big thank you to our Season 3 sponsors, Lightside Financial Planning. They're a Liverpool-based company, fiercely independent and dedicated to making money conversations easy to navigate. If you'd like a conversation with one of their friendly team members, there's a link to their website in the show notes. So today I'm joined by Deborah Henley. Great to see you again, Debbie.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me, Craig.
So Deborah is a leadership coach, an author, a storyteller, a public speaker, a wife, and a kick-ass mum. Deborah, it's great to see you, and we've been talking so far today. Happy, in flow. It's great to see you back in the game again. I know you love leadership in all its shapes and forms, and you're creating some incredible work and leadership programs in the world. And I'm so happy because when I first met you and we did a little bit of work together, you weren't in that place. You were stuck. You were a bit dysfunctional. There was stuff going on for you that was difficult, and it's so good to see you thriving again.
Thank you so much, Craig. It's such a pleasure to be here. And when I first came across you, I had some challenges with the men in my life.
Yeah.
And I've got a son, I've got a husband, and at that time I had a father who was very close to death.
Yeah. And
I was just having problems working out how to be me in the world as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, and also as somebody in leadership who it's so core to my kind of values that I'm authentic and I live a truthful life myself. So if I'm going to be talking about leadership, I ought to be leading my own life at least close to where I want it to be. Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you doing well, and it's good to see you looking lighter on all levels.
Thank you. Yes.
So well done for that.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I had in my misery, I had gained a few pounds, and I also managed to shed those once my father passed away, and I just on a number of levels I started taking steps to look after myself and care for myself and start to really flourish. So thank you. Thanks. It's lovely to have it acknowledged.
Yeah, great. So as you know, this podcast is about male leadership, but it's series 3, and in this series I'm only interviewing women. I wanted to interview you because you've got a story of transformation. I also wanted to interview you because you have a son, and I know you care about men, and I know you have an opinion, and you want to see men show up with more authenticity in the world, and you're trying to champion that in your own son. And I also know that you've had some ups and downs with men as well, and there's a story there to be told. So my first question, and feel free to go wherever you want to go with it, is how was your experience growing up around male leaders, dad, uncle, teachers, as you got a little bit older, men in the corporate world and so on? Like, Where do you want to start with that? How was that for you? Ups and downs, and how it shaped you?
I think where I'll start is when I was. I'll start when I was 25. When I was 25, I was out for a drink with a new friend, and he said to me, you know, why are you always smiling, but your eyes look so sad? And I just felt like he had absolutely seen the truth. I had been wearing a smile on my face my entire life. I'd smiled through the disintegration of my parents' marriage when I was 11, my kind of family falling apart. I grew up in Hong Kong, and you know, my mother then went to England, and I smiled all my way through 12 different schools. By the time I was 18, I'd been to 12 different schools. So I had to get used to lots of different new groups all the time, constantly flexing myself, becoming agile. So it gave me some strengths, but it also taught me that I had to be friendly, I had to be nice, and just put on a nice front. And that's what I did. And my parents lived in a lot of different houses and homes, and to integrate and to be accepted, I had to fit in. So that was where I got to, and that remark, that question that he made, why are you always smiling but your eyes are so sad? I thought, he's seen straight through to the reality, and it was almost like everything then crumbled. My experience of men growing up, well, I think, late 70s, 80s and early 90s was a different sort of era to how it is now. All my cuddly toys had male names. I remember thinking, why is the person in any film or TV show that we see, why is it always the boy or the man that has the character, and then the girl or the woman is just the pretty little object of desire on the side? So there was that. My father was very traditional, kind of old school British gentleman. That came with many wonderful qualities. He's always been very gracious and very kind, very generous, a great provider. But I noticed that I was treated the same way as my brother till I was 11. And then when I started to become a girl, I was slightly treated, started to develop. I was treated a bit differently. And when I came out of university, I got a first class degree, and he said to me, "Oh, well done," sort of. But now you might want to do a secretarial course because it might be a few years till you get married. And there's nothing wrong with being a secretary or getting married, but the implication was you don't, a career isn't something for you. Your next step is to find a good husband, and that will take care of you. And then even when I started, my vocation's really central to who I am. I feel like I've had so many opportunities to share something with people, as a speaker and as a coach and trainer. And when I trained in hypnotherapy and psychotherapy, and I was working in those fields, my father might say something like, "Oh, how's your aromatherapy?" Nothing wrong with aromatherapy, but again, he had no idea what I did. It was just a little side. So that was an experience sort of from my father, but he meant it well. There's not I don't think there was no sort of malicious intent. It was a product of his life and his generation. That's how girls were.
So would you say that from 11 into your teens, as you're starting to blossom as a woman and open and unfold as a woman, he couldn't relate to you in the same way as he could in the earlier years?
Yeah, he could relate to me when I was younger, and then he could relate to me. I started rowing when I was 16, which at that time not many women started rowing at school. We rowed, a lot of women start rowing at college or university. But he could relate to me. He could come and watch me do the sport, and I could be, I could be a strong, fit, healthy woman in a competitive arena, and that he could relate to, and he was great. But I think for me, as a woman or a girl that also wanted to express my female side, I wanted to, as well as being strong and fit and healthy, I also wanted to be, to understand what it was to be feminine. Yeah. And I didn't know how to really be female and be accepted and loved, because what I saw from my uncles and my dad and Benny Hill on television, it was the objectification of women all the time.
Yeah. So I remember Benny Hill.
Yeah. Running around behind a tree, and and we had to sort of laugh that off. But I'd always noticed my uncles kind of going, looking at a girl. It was at the time we'd always be whistled on the street. I mean, every time I walked down the road, I'm 6 foot tall, blonde woman or girl, I would get, whistled at. I wish they did that to me more now, But there was that sense of, it felt quite predatory. And when my brother said to me the other day, I have a really great relationship with my brother, so that was a really positive experience, because we were always kind of similar age growing up, and he's always treated me as a woman with complete respect. Yeah. And I know he admires me a lot, so he's been a great ally.
Is your brother older or younger?
He's 18 months younger.
Yeah.
He said to me the other day, my brother, he said, I remember when we were in Hong Kong, we were about 17, 18, 19. We were out in the nightclubs, and the ships from the US Navy had come in they were going to fight in Iraq, I think. And they'd all come in, they were all flooding the bars. And my brother said, I remember walking you through these crowds of drunken men. And he said, it was one of the most terrifying experiences I've had. I said, I can't remember it. And he said, why? He said, why not? And I said, it just doesn't seem like... Yeah. It probably was quite normal for me as a woman, right, in those kind of environments, very predatory environment, lots of drunken soldiers going off to war, and they were apparently pouring me or trying to get me, and my brother just sort of guided me through and out the other side. So I think I felt I had at the age of 7, I'd had a sexual assault, right, and when I was on holiday, and that was never really spoken about in my family. But I think what it told me was, I don't really have the right to stand up for my body. And subsequently I had various experiences with men where I felt, if I'd kissed them, I should go a little bit further. If I smiled at them, I didn't, no one wants to be a prick teaser. You just, like, when can you say no? And it has only been more recently that I recognise that one of the greatest things a father can give to their daughter is the message that your body is sacrosanct, and you don't have to give it to anybody. Yeah. Like, you can say no at any point. Yeah. And you're, and you have that value. And it's having that. If you have that from your father, then you know that you're invoking that from someone, a big, strong man. Yeah. If it's just a message that's come through from other women, yes, that's good. Yeah. But it's not quite the same as having a male figure there telling you your body is of huge value and it's precious. And
I hope there's a lot of fathers listening to this. And as you say that, I'm thinking, oh God, if my mother would have firmly said to me, Craig, a woman's body is sacred. On the flip of that, I think that's also powerful.
Well, that's something for me to bear in mind with my own 11-year-old son. You know, that the woman's body is sacred.
In a firm way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And tell your daughters, your body is sacred, and it's okay to say no, because I think as girls and women, we're taught to be amenable, we're taught to be soft, and we're taught to be flowing, and we're taught to allow. And I remember being called frigid at university because I wasn't prepared to put out, I wasn't frigid, I just didn't want to, kiss or sleep with guys that were coming on to me. But the fact that that's turned against you in that way, it's really cruel. And I've got to say I felt very unsafe in my body for a long time, and I think that's why I did sports where I did a lot of competitive swimming as well, whereas strong, because I felt I needed to be strong and it's great to be strong and fit, and I love that there's a new aesthetic in women as well, where women don't have to be weak. There's women are appreciated for being strong and healthy now, which is a great change. But also we need to be appreciated for being soft and curvy, and that's good too. Not
of course
not have that aesthetic of looking ill or looking androgynous. That's fine. Whatever our bodies are our bodies, and it's difficult not to objectify ourselves as well. With social media today is also propelling that objectification of how we look all the time. And we're so much more, and I think it's been a long journey for me to learn my value is in so much more than how I look. And I think part of, as I said, I gained a few pounds over the last few years, and there could be a number of reasons behind that. But certainly one of them was I was sick of being looked at. I just wanted to sink into the background. I wanted to be valued for the work I do and what I bring, not for how I look.
Not as an object.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you say about being honoured for being soft. That really resonates with me. And again, it's also something that I seek. For the first time in my life, and this is only coming through me now as I listen to you speak, so thank you. I went to watch a friend put on a gig the other night, and there was a couple of women there, and they gave me a ride in the car on the way home, and they said something that a woman's never said to me. They both said to me, "Thank you for your softness." And if somebody had said that to me at the age of 30, I would have been disgusted, because I didn't want to be soft. So I think we need to honour softness in the whole of life, don't we?
Well, I imagine for those women, if I were to say that to a man, it would be because I felt really safe around them. And so if I were to say thank you for your softness, or see that softness in them, it would be I feel safe to be soft because you're showing me that. And we've talked before about the backbone. Behind, so you've got the backbone behind you, but soft front, and it's that with a man, just knowing that they're strong but can be soft, and for a woman knowing that we're soft but can be strong. We don't have to be brittle. We can have a deep inner strength and a deep flexibility. Like a tree that blows in the wind. Or something more flexible than that, like a squid or an octopus, something that's very strong but can unfold and change and transform. So growing up, I was sort of partly a product of the time, and partly a product of being in environments where my dad did a lot of sailing, and a lot of sailors getting drunk is definitely a bit like a lot of rugby players getting drunk. It doesn't feel very safe, and all you can do is laugh your way through it. That's the way to cope with it. And I ended up going to a school with 600 boys and 9 girls.
Really?
For A levels, my final school. Wow. And so it was quite an experience, because I couldn't. I had to play the game. The social dynamics are already set. So if you wanted to break in with friends, you just had to play the girl that kind of laughed along with. Again, rugby was the dominant sport there.
Right, yeah.
And you kind of go along with that. But it was a good experience. I mean, I feel it's enabled me to hold my own through all kind of environments. And as somebody who goes into different organisations and companies, I'm very comfortable standing at the front of a room with men and women, high performing men and women, and I think as a woman it's less confronting than if I were a man standing up with men, where there might be a bit of a, well, who's the most dominant, who's the strongest, who's the top dog here. I don't have to play that top dog game, so that there is an advantage there, I think.
Okay. Going back to your childhood, what do you think you downloaded from the way your mother was around men? Like the way your mother was around your father. What did you kind of take from that? Well,
my mother and I are very close. We're meeting after this and we're going for a walk.
Oh, cool.
But when I was young, my mother was quite a glamorous woman. She'd been in, she was a model. She'd worked at Lucy Clayton School of Deportment. She'd been a stewardess with BOAC, which the old British Airways, which was at the time where you had to be very glamorous, and as soon as everybody was just a model,
right? And
as soon as if you gained a pound or two, you were out, and when you got married, you were out because you had to be seen as available.
Wow.
So my mother married my father. I think they were kind of like this golden couple, and moved to Hong Kong. And I felt, and then she ended up being very miserable. I only realised this in retrospect. And she ended up having an affair with somebody, and my father was left heartbroken. Now I understand that she felt really lonely, left to look after three young children.
Yeah.
And she was, my father was just very busy doing his sailing or whatever at the weekends and working long hours, business travel all the time. Providing. And I think she just sort of thought her soul was a bit empty and there was nothing for her. And I was very angry with her when she left, because I thought, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you do something? Why didn't you stick up for it? But I realise now, I don't think my father would have heard or listened. I don't think, maybe she tried even, but at the time I felt that she had just been superficial and all she cared about was her looks and going off with men, and I didn't want to be like that. So I just wanted to be, I wanted to be, I suppose, a strong woman, but I also I wanted my father to really think I was wonderful, not to think I was my mother.
Yeah.
And he was very miserable. He cried on my shoulder, and he was really my first therapy client.
Wow.
Because I just...
At what age?
I was 11 or 12.
Wow.
And I discovered, I just thought my value is in looking after him, is in making him feel happy. And I really did everything. It was just I remember it just being my sole focus in life was to try and make him happy. But it was a heavy weight to carry because I knew that he wasn't happy, and I felt it was up to me to try and sort that out.
And it sounds like he could validate you as a sportswoman, but he couldn't value you as a feminine woman.
He couldn't, because and then when I was 16, he met somebody who became his wife, and I was so relieved because I thought, okay, now he's got an adult that can deal with this. And then I think I thought, I didn't consciously realise this, but it was my turn really for him to be there for me, but he just wasn't. I think he didn't then validate me as a woman, or someone who had something to offer him. And I didn't know how to be his daughter. I only knew how to be his therapist, or this sort of sports surrogate boy, doing sport. I didn't know how else to relate to him. And I had a very tricky relationship with my stepmother subsequently, which is a sort of a different matter. But I just think the one thing I would have loved him to have said before he died was just acknowledge just how hard our relationship was, because we tried very hard to reach each other. we tried to communicate, but we just, he could, I used to meet him in my 20s for a meal at lunch or something, and I would cry and just say, I was trying to connect with him, but I didn't.
Emotionally.
But
he's probably trying to connect with you cognitively,
maybe that was what he was doing, but he was very uncomfortable if I cried. He wouldn't, what I wanted was for him to put his arm around me and just say, you know, I understand. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
It'd just be there for me when I cried. So I stopped crying, you know, with him.
And we were just talking earlier about emotional intelligence, and, you know, we're not saying that men have to be like women at all here, but there's an example of a man, your father, not being in touch with his own sadness, and if he would have been taught to be in touch with his own sadness, he would have been able to hold your sadness, and you would have connected beautifully. So I think, thanks for sharing that, because in my work it's an example of what happens to a man when he hasn't got a relationship with his own emotions, and one of his loving relationships, a female in this case, is expressing emotions, and it's probably triggering for him. He can't hold that, and you feel even less safe.
It was so painful for both of us. I know how painful it was. We were both desperate to find a way, and neither of us knew how. Through, you know, he died 2 years ago. He was 82. So then I had that. So that brought me up to that point with him where I'd cry with him and then realise that I couldn't. And I realised the way to be with him was just to smile. And that was when I then had that experience of that man who became my boyfriend saying, I can sort of see the sadness in you. And that allowed me to start releasing my own emotions safely with him. You know, and he really allowed me to express all those feelings that I had.
That must have been liberating.
Well, it was amazing. Yeah, it was. I mean, it got me into the world. That's when I started working in personal development, and with his kind of encouragement, I signed up to do hypnotherapy training. And because I was so interested in the subconscious and the fact that we have this vast untapped potential. And I remember standing in this lift going up at Birkbeck College to do my first hypnotherapy training, and I looked around the lift thinking, I bet they're all really weird hypno types of people. I'm not weird, but they're all really weird. But when I arrived, I was the one on the front row, enwrapped for 2 years while I trained, just thinking, this stuff is amazing. We have so much potential. And hypnosis, like meditation, is one of those ways we can just access the subconscious and the vastness of who we can be in our potential and transform. So it did unlock a lot for me, and I became a hypnobirthing. I brought hypnobirthing to the UK, which is a childbirth technique. So the first baby born in the UK using the hypnobirthing technique was one of my clients. Really? And I had people coming from all over the world to learn hypnobirthing. I was on top of the world, you know. I remember one day I was sort of on BBC 1 o'clock news with Anna Ford being interviewed about it. It was the fluffy bit at the end, but you know, I loved it because I thought I'm empowering women to re-embrace their bodies, to trust in their bodies, and to experience just how powerful we can be when we just relax our brains, our breathing, and don't have fear, because fear leads to the unnecessary nervous tension of childbirth. If we can allow the muscles to do what they do naturally, contractions, which are just contractions of the muscles, if we can do that without fear, we don't add the extra tension. So even if medical intervention is necessary, and I'm not against that at all, but even if it is necessary, it can be done in a way where you just feel empowered all the way through. You know, you can embrace whatever happens. So I was on top of the world, but very sadly, I was also pregnant, expecting to be great earth mother. That was my next story. I'm an empowerer of women, and I'm an earth mother. And very sadly, I lost the baby very late, which threw me into a crisis of I don't know what my purpose is again. I don't know what my story is. I don't know who I am. My boyfriend, my partner, who had been with me through these last 5 years of really embracing and discovering myself, our relationship just
what's his name?
disintegrated. Sorry, Toby.
Yeah.
And I have so much, that I owe him.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Yeah, and he went back to Australia. It was sad, but I was really grief stricken, and I'm sure he was as well. But we, like many people do, when we had a very, a loss like that.
Yeah,
it was a loss. We broke up. I mean, I didn't know who I was anymore, because who was I if I wasn't this woman who? It was like a joke from God. I was a woman who trusted in the power of my body and in childbirth, this natural process.
Yeah.
So but as you know, I did end up having a child. 12 years later.
Yeah.
Which has been the most wonderful blessing.
Wow. Okay, so growing up, there was a part of you that didn't feel seen and didn't feel that safe around men. And how old were you when you met Toby?
I was 25, 26.
So on the good side, what did he reflect to you as a man that you hadn't really experienced much of before that?
Well, the fact of allowing emotions. He was a musician, and so he was very in touch with his body or rhythm or beat.
Okay.
I think he was very comfortable. He was a very charismatic character. So he didn't have a huge ego, but he was very confident, sort of on a stage. This is in Australia. I'd go and he performed to crowds of thousands, and that was. So I think he reflected back that it's okay to have all the full range, the full gamut of emotions, and it became okay to do that.
And you mentioned a really important point there, that he was connected to his body, unlike most men. So the fact that he was connected to his body means he's connected to his emotions, which are the language of his body, which enabled him to validate your own emotional experience. Yeah.
I think he was probably much more evolved than I was at that time, although that's not to say that he didn't have his own issues and challenges to deal with. But, it was a period in my life where I met the right person for that time.
Yeah,
but that had been off the back of, prior to that, I'd spent 5 years in another relationship from age 20 to 25 with an Olympic athlete who was the, stroke in of the Olympic 8 and also in the 4 following Olympics. And, I was very much involved in the world of rowing. And he was very physical and again, a lovely guy. I'm still friends with him now. But that gave me stability, and it gave me focus, and it gave me family. I was in the family of the rowing world. And I knew who I was in that. So there was sort of validation, but I kind of went somewhere new with Toby.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on from Toby.
Yes.
Being around men in the world, moving into the world of leadership where there's a lot of men. We'll come on to your corporate life in a moment. As you moved into that corporate life, in fact, can you talk about as you moved into the corporate life? Can you go into that?
Well, I think there was a space, because after Toby and I went our separate ways, I was really trying to understand who I was, having lost this baby, because it just didn't make any sense to me. I thought, surely my message is the right one. I am the product of thousands of generations of women
Mm.
who have given birth. So surely it's a natural process, and surely it's good for me to encourage other women to trust in their bodies and trust in this natural
Yeah,
process.
yeah.
But of course, I don't think I was completely trusting in my own body, and I felt like I just didn't know who I was, what I was about, and I did a lot of therapy at that time to try and sort of get through it.
Right.
You know, I'd trained in hypnotherapy and art psychotherapy and NLP and various other things.
Yeah.
But I kind of came to a standstill in my own life, and the relationship ended, and I gave my hypnobirthing business away because I couldn't face the message just didn't ring true anymore. I couldn't say it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who I was, and I started to work in a drug and alcohol addiction rehabilitation.
Right.
So that rehabilitation with people was me learning who I was and refinding myself. But at that time, I must say that there was something very important that happened, which was my father called me up one day and he said, you might want to go and see your grandmother because she's close to death. And I said, well, should I go now? It was a Thursday. And he said, no, you can wait till the weekend, it'll be fine. And I felt I've got to go because no one is going to say goodbye to her. None of her 4 sons are going to be able to face the reality of this moment.
Yeah.
And she deserves for someone to be able to say goodbye, you know. And fortunately, with the work I'd done so far and where I got to, I got in the car and I went down and I sat in the room with her. She was lying in the bed, you know, breathing heavily. My uncle was there, and he was chatting away. He's going, "Oh, Debs, doing anything interesting over the weekend?" And I eventually just said, "Could I just have 5 minutes alone?" And he left, and I was able to just hold her hand and just say, "It's me, Debs, and I've just come to say goodbye, and we all love you, and we know you love us." And she was worried about how everyone would be, and I just said, "We're all going to be okay. We love you, and we know you love us, and it's okay to go." And as I said that, she breathed her last breath, and it was just an extraordinary honour for somebody to do that.
Yeah.
But I just felt it was one of those moments in my life where I felt this is what it's where I have to be, and it's what I've got to do. And I was able to let her go, and I was able to do the same for my father when he died. I was able to be by his bedside and hold his hand. So I sort of wanted to put that in there because I think it took for me to be so crushed by life at that point to not know who I was or where I was going. But I did have a moment where I went, well, there's a place I'm meant to be with someone doing the real work. And it's not the real work. It's just living and being real in the moment. And when I worked with people in addiction recovery, again, people were brought to their knees in life. Their old selves had to die. And they had to create new belief systems about who they were and how they operate. All the beliefs they had about who they were, which is, I need a drink after work to get by, or I need to, everybody drinks this much, or, everyone does this many drugs, or I need them. They had to let all that go and just go, there's a different way for me to be me. And I was doing the same. So I was just saying, okay, I'm starting from the ground. I don't know who I am. It was wonderful being Miss Hypnobirthing, talking about childbirth and women's empowerment, but I have no idea who I am now. And I was kind of at ground zero with the people I was facilitating, and they're some of the most courageous, incredible people I've ever met. They had nothing to lose. Their children being taken into care. Sometimes they'd been on the streets. They may have been captains of industry, but now they'd got to a point where they had to be humble and just say, I've got to do things differently. And I knew I had to do things differently as well. Or it was an amazing opportunity to say there's a different way of living.
And were there both men and women in the addiction centre?
Yeah.
What percentage were men compared to women?
I'd say probably 60, 70% men. Yeah.
Did you learn anything about men during those 5 years? That you maybe, I don't know, that around the suffering of men, or looking back?
I don't know whether I would say I noticed a big difference in the way people were coming at it. I mean, I think the concerns were maybe a bit different, where, you know, the women were motivated maybe more by their being a good mother, maybe, by their children. There was a big motivation there. Whereas maybe for the men it was to get back on their feet and get a home or a life, or perhaps.
Okay. So did your corporate life come next after that?
Well, yes, it did, because I was working with people doing transformation, you know, helping them transform their lives. And you know, I've always had a real optimistic side to me, or real, you know, joyful. I've always had a belief that we've got, you know, so much more to who we are that we can experience, as well as how wonderful the world is as it is, you know, nature and beauty around us. And I was helping people transform and change, but, you know, I was working for charities, and often they couldn't pay very much. And I was struggling to pay my rent, and financially I kind of ended up in struggling, really. I went to the various centres I worked for and said, you know, can you pay me more? And they said, well, we're really sorry, but this is all we can do. We'd love you to stay, but this is the amount of money we've got. And I just thought, I'm just going to have to change things. I remember one day sitting in my flat in Chiswick, and I had these papers in front of me. They were, I was offered a 3-month mortgage holiday, so I didn't have to pay for 3 months my mortgage. But I thought, phew, but I've no idea what I'm going to do at the end of these 3 months. I'm down to my last £10. And
you hadn't got a son at this stage, right?
No, I was on my own and single, and I just didn't know how I was going to get myself out of this hole. But actually, my father stepped in with someone he knew, someone who'd worked with him in HR, and she came and spent a day with me, and she helped me find all the value in everything I've got, you know, the value in all my experiences. And I'd trained coaches and I'd trained therapists. I'd done a lot of work, but she was able to show how those were transferable skills for the corporate world. Right. And she helped me rewrite my CV, and she sort of coached me, and we applied to various organisations. But I also was a speaker, and I went to Toastmasters, which is a speaking group, and somebody was there speaking about bringing disadvantaged people into the city. So I said, well, I can help, because I know a lot of disadvantaged people in my work. So we got together and started working on this project. It was about giving them a first chance. But one day I turned to him and said, look, I can't do any more pro bono work. I'm actually the one that needs a chance, a financial chance. And he said, what? They'd love you here. And he put my CV in, and I got a job in one of the big 4 accountancy firms in marketing, heading up all the client relationship development. Wow. And they loved my kind of psychotherapy side, psychology and events and people, and, you know, it was great. But I definitely was going in undercover. I felt like I won't let people know the real me. I'll put on a suit. I'll act like a corporate person. I'll make the commute. You know, I'll learn to work with systems, tech systems that I've never used, and I just felt like I was like bluffing my way through it.
And how long did you do that for?
Just 2 years.
Okay.
And then I left. I saw a lot of very miserable people, in those jobs, ghosts of people whose souls weren't shining bright. And I set up Vivacity, which the strapline is to bring life to work and work to life, Viva City. And that was training and coaching.
In the corporate world?
In the corporate world, for people in the city to bring life into work. What I didn't know was you also need to be able to sell. It's all very well.
Oh, tell me about it.
So I didn't know how to do that side of things. So I ended up also working as an associate trainer and facilitator in psychology for companies like the Mind Gym, who go into all kinds of big FTSE 500 or global companies. So I've done work with them and various other ones for, anything from government, Home Office, atomic weapons engineering, MOD, MOJ, as well as banks and pharma all over the world. So that's been brilliant. The but is that I felt like I wasn't doing the kind of the soul work.
I hear.
I mean, I know, we're here talking about men and women. I go back to the point I made before, that when I'm working with people, even kind of at the most senior end or the most powerful end, I do think that there's an advantage or an ease if I can be as feminine or as just confident in being the woman I am, not trying to be a surrogate man in those environments, not fronting up in that way,
competing and challenging.
And I think that's been, as I've gained confidence, I've been able to become more feminine, and that's greater. I think that brings power, soft power.
Yeah. In that corporate period of your life, what was your biggest frustration with male leaders?
I just felt everyone was operating at a level of superficiality where everything was, I mean, I was working in marketing, it's quite difficult to quantify, but it's always about the financial transactions, things that we can measure. And I sort of enjoyed the challenge, as well as it being a frustration, of having to make the case for relationship development, which was what I was there to do, but having to make a commercial case for connecting with other human beings.
Yeah.
Because if you can connect with another human being in a business environment, then you can sell more, you get more market insights, you get more opportunities. And all businesses,
employee retention,
you get much better culture. People are happier, they're more productive. I call it the 3 E's of a culture that's really healthy. People are engaged, energized, and empowered. And I felt frustrated by the leaders, and probably more male leaders than female leaders who didn't get this, that they couldn't see the real value of people being engaged, energized, and empowered.
And emotionally connected.
Comes
back to that, doesn't it?
Well, in my real leadership program that I now have, the E of real stands for emotional intelligence. And there are 3 workshops under that, which is the emotional intelligence to engage, the emotional intelligence to energize, and the emotional intelligence to empower. And I think when we can do those things, we engage with people when we're aware of our own emotions and can pick up on others, and then have the skills to communicate clearly. Men are, what I'd say is, people often go, women are better at emotional intelligence. I don't think that's entirely true. I think if we're going to generalise, women tend to be a little bit more comfortable with and more in tune with what they're feeling.
Yeah, because of the initiations of a woman's life.
Yes. We must talk more about those in a moment. We've already talked about childbirth. But yes, so we know how we're feeling, and we're used to talking about it in small, safe circles with our girlfriends.
For thousands of years. In communities. So we know about community spirit, and we know how to
gather and commune in a very open way. With that comes cattiness and infighting, and back that's the flip side. But we do know how to do that emotionally, and we know how to play with emotions. Where we tend to be less good at, I think, as far as emotional intelligence goes, is stepping into that power and presenting and speaking and being more directive in a way that's still soft and strong. I think men can do that really well. Men can lead and they go, come on, we're going to do this, give a pep talk. Galvanize. And, maybe the energized side, really bring people up. But I think we can sometimes go into a bit of a cycle that, get sucked down the sinkhole with our dynamics, because we're quite we can be more internally focused, and men can be more externally focused. So I think the balance of both is really powerful.
How did the birth of your son change your perception of men and change your relationship to men?
Well, the birth of my son was definitely one of those moments in my life where everything did change. I felt as though I had to have a child. At 40 I had a miscarriage, and I thought, that's it, I have to make my peace, I'm not going to have a baby. And I still felt betrayed by the fact that I hadn't been able to be a mother, but I thought, I've got to make my peace, and what's more important is I have to have a purpose in life. I thought that when I lost the baby when I was 29, and thought it again, when I was 40. I thought it's important to have a purpose that's beyond being a mother. And I think that goes for all mothers and for all women. It's very, very easy for the child to become our sole purpose. So in a way, that was, the silver lining of that particular black and stormy cloud. But when I had, the following year, I got pregnant, and I was all the way through the pregnancy, I just didn't dare believe it would come through. This is now my 5th pregnancy.
Wow.
And I had my hypnobirth, which I wanted in a pool, a very long and arduous birth. But I was saying to you earlier about this, it was almost like I got the opportunity to see what my body was
capable of.
There's like incredible to have a baby, to grow a baby, and to have a baby, to breastfeed a baby. Which is also was a struggle, can be a struggle for a lot of women. But to do all of that and to experience my body in that way, I think it renewed. I reclaimed my body. Having done sport where I didn't really claim it, certainly not my body as a woman. I probably would have. It would have been easier to be a man. At that time, because I could have been stronger and everything else. But I reclaimed it as a woman, and that it would let me down before. I didn't trust it as a woman, and as a mother, it's what's changed for me is I've tussled with the pull to be. My primary thing is to really nurture and bring my son up and give him the best childhood I can. Teach him what I can in the way that will equip him for life to be whoever he flourishes and grows to be. Like a plant. I'm not going to shape him, but I'm just going to allow him to grow. And I'm so committed to that. And then I've always had a tension between that and my work, and how much time I should be spending on my work versus being with him. And so that's been a challenge. I'm married as well. So my husband has a role to play in there. But what I notice, and I don't know whether I can't necessarily generalise, but I'm much more conscious of the effect of the environment on him, such as phones and social media, or just kind of shaping him for the best life he can. where my husband's fantastic at, being there for the sport.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's a great provider as well. So he does fall into some of those traditional male roles. And, he's a great father in many ways.
Yeah.
But my job, the self-appointed job for me is to look after his heart and soul, for my son.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. When you're going to speak to him about a woman's body?
That's a very good point. I mean,
before he gets too old.
I mean, already the first time he got in trouble at school when he was 5 years old, the teacher said, "I'm really sorry, we've had to tell your son off because he was slapping the teachers on the bottoms." Oh. She said we had to laugh, but he's got to know that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
And they teach them about consent at school.
Wow, really?
Yeah, they do.
That's good.
It's a lot better. But
wow.
I'm having to teach him. He'll do things like he'll come in. At the moment, he's got a habit of trying to tickle me, and I'm very ticklish, and often I don't like it, and I'm trying to get him to say yes, it's fun, but there are also times where I don't want it when I say no. It's no, and respect, and anybody who says no,
wow,
don't. But it's and I think it's important as well for the husband or the father to communicate that message to the son. As well.
Yeah. Of course.
But yes, I mean, I suppose part of what I can do in my role in life is be the best woman I can be feminine, but be strong, have a purpose but also, be a loving mother and a safe harbour for him to come back to.
Yeah, great. Well, I want to honour your softness in this moment. You're far, as you said to me, I can still feel your leadership backbone, but you're far softer than the first time I ever met you. And of course it was on a Zoom call, but I just feel your softness coming through. Yeah.
Thank you.
The next question is, what do you wish men knew about women?
I wish that men knew that it's a little bit like that analogy I said about the garden, but if they gave the space around a woman, they don't have to be too close, but just held that woman and honoured her, she can unblossom like a flower. She can blossom like a flower in his space. There's no need to push or force or direct. In fact, the less you do or fix, the more there's a wider holding safe space around that woman will come with her own spirit and unfold.
Beautiful. So more around, I guess, learning that sometimes a woman does actually need you to be in your masculine container, but not the fixer, the holder, the one that just holds space. Like, it's almost the silent, connected, present, wise masculine, right?
Yes, silent and strong, like a mountain, or, any container, like, I saw we went to see a beautiful waterfall. We were in South Africa recently, and, the feminine is maybe the waterfall falling down, but the masculine is holding that space, that channel for that waterfall to go. I think there's that sort of strength and stillness.
Yeah, I like that. Or the other metaphor that I like is that, and of course it can flip, but generally speaking, you've been craving for almost secure banks of the river so that your river can flow into the ocean of love, so to speak.
But I think this is something we said, we've already had one podcast today, which is my podcast with you, which was fantastic. But the idea that we can only be as close to another human being as we can be to ourselves.
Brilliant.
And we talked about that then, and it just seems so important to bring it up again now. Just really being at ease for any man and woman.
Yeah.
We've each got to be completely at ease with who we are, and even if we don't much like all of who we are, just say, well, this is who I am. We don't need to apologise. And I think that if we can accept one another, I'd love for, the strongest men are the men that can allow a woman to be strong. I think the men that seem to have a problem with women being strong, powerful women tend to have a lot of insecurities.
Yeah.
But when they're secure in themselves and strong themselves, they can allow a woman to be as strong as she is.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't want to have our wings clipped. We want someone to go fly, and you know.
Yeah. I love that you told me that for the second time today, and I love it. That I'll put it into my own words, but the more close, intimate, and connected we are with our own body, with our own emotions, with our own self, the more we can connect with another human being. That's I love that, because sometimes I think as men and women we get lost in masculine, feminine dynamics, and it can be quite confusing. I like the simplicity of what you just said, and I say it to a man, mate, the more you are intimate, connected in your body and allowing of your emotions, the more you can be connected to someone else. Emotions are the language of connection, right? I really like that.
And I think the one thing that's also coming up for me as you're speaking there is just the role of breath in that, which is the connection between the emotion and the physical world out there. Our breath is life, but it's also where we express all our emotions, and of course where we have our voice.
Yeah, voice is breath, right? The verbalization of sounds from our mouth, it's the exhalation of our breath. Let's dream for a moment on the future of authentic male leadership. What are 3 words that for you describe authentic male leadership and what you'd like to see more of in men? 3 words that describe powerful male leadership.
Well, I'm going to come back to engage, energize, and empower, but I've actually just thinking I'm going to say connected to the soul, connected to who they can be, and connected to other people. Really tuning in.
So connected,
Connected. And ready to be both, strong and yielding.
So connected, strong, and yielding.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And new and much needed, because if we look in the old text around leadership, we don't hear the word connection, especially where men are concerned. So I think connection has come heavily through your podcast with me and my podcast with you. So I hope the people listening, especially the men, take that on board, the importance of connecting with oneself
and with
on
others.
A deep level, and with others.
Yeah. It's the word of the day.
Yeah. The final question, because time has flown again, is, so as a leader, a mother, father, CEO, manager, friend, whatever, we leading self. As a leader, what does it mean to you to dare to be different? What does that speak to you, dare to be different as a leader?
What it means for me, it speaks very, very deeply to the keynote that I'm currently writing, which is called The Genius of the Genuine You. The genius we each have is in where we are, where we dare to be different. The genius is in allowing ourselves to be quirky, letting our freak flag fly, and allowing ourselves to be, you know, show our quirks and our differences. So yeah, I think the more we dare to be true to ourselves and not try to fit in, then the more we are the best leader that we can be. And you know, we step out of the world into the world in our genius.
Great, thank you. There's a nice marriage there between my brand and your brand. I think we could also say dare to be different means that accept your perfect flaws.
Yes, yeah, my podcast is perfectly flawed.
Great.
So, yeah.
So to finish, what's next for you, Deborah? We know what's next for you as a mother. You're going to teach your son to be strong, yielding and connected, but what's next for you as a leader in the world? You know, I know your work is very important to you. What's coming next for you?
Well, I'd love to reach out to, you know, I've said to myself before, you know, touch a million, make a million, you know, just touch millions of lives or a million lives through these ideas around being true to your genuine self, being your perfectly flawed self. I'm writing a book on that, and I've got my podcast and my talks, and it's just keep going along the way that I'm going now. I'm loving it.
Wonderful. And where can my viewers find you?
They can find me on deborahhenley.com, or they can go and have a listen to. Why not go and listen to the podcast between you and me on Perfectly Flawed?
Great. And I also like some of the stuff that you post on LinkedIn as well. That's quite powerful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me here today, Craig. It's been just really wonderful to connect with you twice.
You too. We need a few more hours, don't we? But I'm satisfied with what we got through, and it's great to see you shining. You are shining, and I wish you all the best for your immediate future.
Thank you so much.